Fridays at the stick. From who's got it better than us to brick by brick. It's always the 49ers way, from off-season to game day. Yeah, we talk back. It's the 49ers Cutback.
It's 49ers Cutback podcast time. Welcome to the show, everyone. Game preview, 49ers versus Buccaneers. This week, it's led us all to this moment. We're going to go through a ton to get prepared for tomorrow's matchup between two 4-1 teams who are battling to be atop the NFC. And for the 49ers, their perfect conference record is on the line. And if they can win, they can maybe distance themselves in the NFC West and start putting themselves atop the NFC and probably a lot of people's opinions. So this is a big game. 49ers still going into this game with a backup quarterback, still going into this game with a backup tight end. There's lots of positions where they have backups. But guess what? Tampa Bay, they're in a similar situation. No excuses can be made for either team. Tampa Bay is going to be missing several players in this game as well. So this one is going to be a really fun matchup. You've got Baker Mayfield, all the personality that goes along with him, but really good play right now. Then you've got Mac Jones, who's been working through a knee injury and been playing the best football of his career. And so it makes for a good matchup in Tampa. And so this is going to be a fun one, of course, in this episode. We're going to break it all down. We're going through the injuries, letting you know who's playing in this game. We're going to talk about the coaches, the coaching staff, who is exactly pulling the trigger, go through key matchups of who needs to win what are the keys to victory for the San Francisco 49ers versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We're going to go through some bold predictions. And then, of course, I'm going to tell you who I think is going to win in the FanDuel predictions at the end of the show. So stick around. This is going to be a fun one. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you're listening on an audio platform, 49ers Cutback on Believe Network, please give it a 5-star rating. And of course, this episode is brought to you by FanDuel, title sponsor of 49ers Cutback. So let's talk about the injury. And, the 49ers opened the practice window for a couple of players this week. And that was Kevin Givens. That was a surprise. Didn't see that one coming. Malik Mustafa, it was sort of talked about last week. So Malik's practice window has opened. Now, usually when that happens, coming out of it, you get two designations. One is very favorable and one is not. Well, Kevin Givens got the not so favorable designation as he is ruled as out. So they're letting Kevin Givens work his way back in. So it's not going to happen this week. He's still got a couple more weeks to potentially get back. The 49ers do need depth along the defensive line, but right now they don't feel it's the time to pull the trigger on Kevin Givens. It, however, can be the time to pull the trigger on Malik Mustafa, and who knows, by the time you watch this, the 49ers may have already done it because they have until 4 Eastern time today to pull the trigger on roster moves and have Malik Mustafa potentially, added to the active roster. And if that happens, they're going to have to make a corresponding move. My guess is somebody goes on injured reserve. I don't think they'll waive anyone, but I could be wrong. We'll see what happens. But Malik Mustafa, questionable. It's likely Malik is going to play in this game for the 49ers. Not likely for Kevin Givens because guess what? He got ruled out, and you can't be less likely than ruled out. Also ruled out, defensive end Yetur Gross-Matos. He's dealing with the hamstring. He could be a player they put on IR. I hope not. I'm hoping this is more of a 2 to 3 week injury than a 4 to 6 week injury. Ricky Pearsall, he's out with the knee. I think next week's probably more of a realistic possibility for Ricky Pearsall to come back, so he will not be going. Of course, quarterback Brock Purdy worked out on a side field this week, but did not practice, and so it's still going to be a little bit of time before he's ready. If the 49ers win at Tampa Bay, there's a chance that Brock Purdy gets another week off. We'll see. The quarterback position for the 49ers is getting a little dicey when you talk about, the injuries. Mac Jones still not 100% healthy. Brock Purdy's out. Adrian Martinez is potentially going to have to play at some point, and the 49ers just worked out 3 quarterbacks on Friday afternoon. And, some of those names you might recognize, a guy like Nathan Peterman, a guy that has fit in a similar system. They're looking for some guys, Desmond Ritter, another guy, and then Normandy, who played in the UFL. So they are definitely looking. I'm thinking those guys are more depth, emergency quarterbacks. If you have someone on the practice squad, they can be an emergency quarterback for your football team. So maybe one of those guys signed to the practice squad today. We'll see. But it's definitely getting dicey. And then Jordan Watkins, who's out with the calf, I do believe he's another IR candidate as somebody, if they have to make room for Malik Mustafa, it could be him. Now, the questionable tag goes to defensive tackle Alfred Collins. He's going to play. Kalia Davis, his hand injury, I think the fact that he's questionable, there's a really good chance Kalia Davis plays in this game with a cast on. That's good news for the 49ers. Then they don't lose one of their starting defensive tackles as part of a rotation. And that means with him and Alfred Collins and CJ West and Jordan Elliott, you're good to go when it comes to defensive tackle. Wide receiver Jawan Jennings, he's going to play. Mac Jones is going to play. Malik Mustafa, I think it's not a foregone conclusion, but I do think it's going to happen. And then Upton Stout with his low ankle sprain, I believe Upton Stout will play as well. Now, when you look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they have a lot of players who are going to be out. Wide receiver Mike Evans, this one happened a few weeks ago, and he's not ready to come back yet. That's a big loss for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But they've been winning without him. They've found ways to win without him, so they still have a very impressive wide receiver room. But it's getting a little bit more complicated because they lost Chris Godwin as well. He's got a fibula injury. So Godwin hasn't been around very long. He's only been playing 3 games this year, and he's already out with an injury. So Evans and Godwin, the two biggest receivers for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, are out. Now, we're not going to ignore how good Emeka Egbuka has played. He's definitely played like a top-flight wide receiver in the league so far. So I do believe that they still have weapons at wide receiver. We'll talk about that a lot as we go through this episode. But they're also going to be missing their starting running back, Bucky Irving. And this one's big. They have Rashad White, but Bucky Irving is different when it comes to running style, explosiveness, and his ability to get things done in the run game. And that's why we're starting to see Tampa Bay's running game slow up a little bit with Bucky Irving being out. So 3 big losses on offense for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and Bucky Irving. Those are all big losses that hurt, and they also lost running back Josh Williams as well to a concussion. Now, over on the defensive side of the ball, they've been having problems with cornerback. Last week, they didn't have Jamel Dean. They didn't have Benjamin Morrison. Well, they're not going to have Benjamin Morrison again. He's out with a hamstring injury. He will not play. Their young star not able to play. So they're going to have to count on some other guys. And Zion McCollum, their number 1 cornerback, is going to be out this week. He had a thumb procedure, and he's in a cast, and he can't go. So luckily for them, Jamel Dean did come back. He's going to play. He was dealing with a hip injury. So I said in my episode yesterday, I believed it would be one or the other. You wouldn't get both of these guys to play, McCollum and Dean. And it did happen. It's going to be Jamel Dean that plays. No Zion McCollum. Big loss for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which means they have some weaknesses at defensive back. Now, news that could go in a positive direction for them, defensive back Christian Eising is also listed as questionable and could play in this game. So beat up secondary, beat up wide receiver room for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They're dealing with injuries as well, but you see it. 49ers, injuries, find ways to win. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, injuries, find ways to win. They don't allow you to make excuses in the NFL. You just got to find ways to get it done, and both of these teams have figured it out. Now, let's look at the coaches, head coaches, Kyle Shanahan, Todd Bowles. Todd Bowles has been a good head coach. He's been a really good defensive coordinator in this league for years, and so we know that Todd Bowles is going to have this team ready to go. And he's continued to, put his fingerprints on it. And they've stayed a very competitive team since he took over a few years ago. So very good caller there. Now, when you look at the play callers, Kyle Shanahan, of course, and then Josh Grizzard. Josh Grizzard, this is his first year as offensive coordinator. He took over for Liam Cohen, who went on to become the Jacksonville Jaguars head coach. But Josh Grizzard has a unique kind of, coming up story in the NFL. He went to Yale, very similar to what happened, with other guys who are coaching in the NFL, a guy like Mike McDaniel. And Mike McDaniel had Grizzard on staff in the 2023 season. So he was there. He's familiar with that system, with the 49ers system that Mike McDaniel runs a variation of. But he's been around a little bit for the Dolphins a couple of times. And last year he was the quarterback coach for Baker Mayfield. This year he's elevated. And I think you see some of the influences of Liam Cohen, who runs a very Sean McVay style offense, very akin to Kyle Shanahan. These are all offshoots of that Shanahan system, the outside zone and all of that. So you've got a system that's very favorable. It's very timing when it comes to passing, and Grizzard's a very intelligent guy. He's done a really good job pulling the trigger and calling plays for Baker Mayfield and his Tampa Bay offense that's scoring over 27 points a game. So he's done a good job in his first year, and I expect him only to get better. They have some really talented guys as passing game coordinator, run game coordinator, and he was passing game coordinator last year. So Baker Mayfield and this offense, they can go, and Josh Grizzard feels really comfortable pulling the trigger and calling the plays. Now, defensive play callers, we got Robert Saleh and Todd Bowles. It don't get much better than this. I mean, both of these guys are two of the better defensive coordinators and defensive minds in the NFL. Todd Bowles loves to bring pressure, hasn't brought as much this year. A lot of that probably has to do with some of the injuries that he's dealing with. Also, they've got Hassan Reddick. They've got Yaya Diaby, so they're probably thinking those guys can generate more pressure in their typical 4- and 5-man pressures. They run a lot of 5-man fronts and bring 5-man pressures pretty consistently, but I expect Todd Bowles to kind of amp up the intensity in this one and bring more blitzes and put the pressure on Mac Jones to make quick reads and get rid of the football and not turn it over. I think Todd Bowles just really enjoys putting people under pressure and making them think fast. Special teams coordinators Brant Boyer and Tom McGahee. I think I'm saying his name wrong, but he's a pretty talented guy. Thomas McGahee is been around for a long time in the NFL, so he's talented. He's in his second year as special teams coordinator in Tampa Bay. He's done a pretty good job. So 17 years of NFL coaching experience for him, including 2015 with your own San Francisco 49ers. And so that is the coaches that are going to be facing off. And I think it's key when you talk about play callers, offense, defense. Those are going to play pivotal roles. And, of course, special teams. We've seen special teams matter. 49ers last week were on the right end of special teams plays. They didn't make the big mistakes. They didn't miss the field goals. They didn't have special teams, errors, and that did, cause the Rams some problems. I mean, Joshua Carty kicking that ball short of the landing zone put the 49ers to the 40-yard line to start overtime, and I thought that was a very pivotal situation in the game. So something that both of these teams, are going to look to do is stay good on special teams. But let's talk about the key matchups. It's got to be 49ers wide receivers, versus this defensive secondary of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. No Zion McCollum, that's going to be huge. So it's going to be Jamel Dean on the outside, and it'll either be Kendall Vidor or Josh Hayes that's opposite of him with the loss of Zion McCollum, which means Jacob Parrish is going to be in the nickel. And Jacob Parrish is a very talented guy at K-State, but this is going to be an opportunity for the 49ers. Whoever's lined up on Vidor or Hayes has got to take advantage of that opportunity and make some plays. And with the 49ers adding into this lineup, DeJuan Jennings and Kendrick Bourne and Demarcus Robinson are a really good, 3-man group at the top of the wide receiver room. You still have Marquez Valdez-Scantling as well. So I think that they're going to have a lot to be able to put pressure on the secondary. The safeties for Tampa Bay are pretty good, and so they're going to be able to try to help out. But how much can Antoine Winfield and Tyke Smith do? I think that's going to be the big question, especially when they're going to have to pay attention to Jake Tunges, and they're going to have to pay attention to Christian McCaffrey. So I think that could be a little bit of an advantage for the 49ers. And, of course, with these offensive key matchups, if you want to watch them in more detail, I did put out a video this week detailing them, and you could go and check that out. That's available as well. 49ers interior offensive line versus Vita Vea is going to be one of the toughest battles for the 49ers. And if I'm the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and I'm Todd Bowles, I am putting Vita Vea right over the top of Jake Brendel or right over the top of Connor Kobe. and making those guys figure out how to block him. I think the 49ers are in a catch-22 where they want to give help in the passing game to whoever is lined up on Vita Vea, but it might be more important to give help to Colt McKivitz, who's going to be dealing with Hassan Reddick. Because if one thing we saw last week is that Colt McKivitz struggles with a pure speed rusher off the outside. Those guys with that elite first step that can get around the corner, it was a problem against Byron Young. And Hassan Reddick is built in the same mold. So, number one, Colt McKivitz has got to be more up to the challenge and ready to go for this one. I think last week illustrated what you can and can't do. But I think the 49ers are going to want to chip. They're going to want to give help. But they've got to figure out how to not let Vita Vea absolutely collapse the pocket by getting an internal push on Connor Kobe or Jake Brendel. If he's going Jake Brendel needs help. He cannot anchor against Vita Vea. Normally, you would see a big defensive tackle like that taken off in pass situations, but not with Tampa Bay, not with this. And I do believe that's why Todd Bowles will blitz. If he blitzes and you have to engage one of those guys to go get a linebacker or a defensive back or whoever, and you get Jake Brendel or Connor Kobe one-on-one, I do believe that's advantage Tampa Bay. So that is one area that I think the 49ers have some concern. I think it also plays into the run game as well. How do you get movement on Vita Vea? The easiest way to do it is run horizontal. Get that outside zone going. Get those outside toss plays going. Attack Hassan Reddick in the running game. Stay away from Vita Vea as much as possible. It's not going to be easy. Tampa Bay is one of the best run defenses in the entire NFL. A lot of it Vita Vea. A lot of it their linebacker room, who is very talented. Levante David still doing it at a high level. And Colt McKivitz versus Hassan Reddick is one of the key matchups in this game too. That's going to be one to watch. Yaya Diaby versus Trent Williams is strength on strength anyway. That's going to be a lot of fun. I do expect those guys to flip back and forth, but I think after watching last week's film, they're going to want to see Reddick going against Colt McKivitz, and McKivitz has got to hold up. Christian McCaffrey versus Levante David and Dennis, the other linebacker. David and Dennis are talented dudes, but McCaffrey has found an advantage every single week. He's been going for 80-plus passing yards, and I think that's an opportunity for the 49ers. Like, okay, you guys are going to stop us in the run, but we have extended run plays, swing passes, screen passes, things to get Christian McCaffrey the ball in space. And so far, the matchups that they found have been really good. And then Mac Jones versus the blitz of Todd Bowles. I think Todd Bowles is going to mix it up. Some of it to try to confuse Connor Kobe. Some of it to cause problems for Jake Brendel and that interior part of the offensive line. And then some of it to confuse Mac Jones. You know, bring guys, show simulated pressures, have them drop out. See if you can't get some pressure on Mac Jones and then have somebody drop out into a zone that he wasn't expecting and get some turnovers. So far this year, Tampa Bay hasn't been great on turnovers. They've only caused 4 turnovers so far this season, so that will be one of the points of emphasis. But also, Mac Jones is a guy that can be sacked. And so I think they want to get after him. They want to put pressure on him. They want to make him feel uncomfortable. And they at least want to do like the Rams did and continue to hit him, because as the game wore on against the Rams, Mac Jones, you could tell, was beat up. And they already know he's coming into this game not 100%. So expect that to continue. Now, looking at the defensive matchups, Baker Mayfield versus Robert Saleh and Fred Warner is going to be one of the fun matchups of this game, because Robert Saleh has got to try to confuse Baker Mayfield and get pressure on him. And so I think that Robert Saleh is going to run his normal quarter shell, make it look like quarters every time. Sometimes he'll buzz a safety in. He'll run a single high look. I think sometimes they'll go man, but it's not going to be that predominant. I think sometimes they're going to have to bring a blitz, but this is going to be a chess match between Robert Saleh and Baker Mayfield, and really Fred Warner, because he's the extension of Robert Saleh on the field. He's going to have to play the game and make sure he sticks on Baker. Right now, Baker's doing a great job taking care of the football. Not a lot of turnovers. 10 touchdowns to 1 interception. He's done good, because the 49ers need to generate a pass rush with 4. But that's probably a little bit unlikely. I think the best way to do it would be to attack the right side of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offensive line. You look on that side, and they've got Charlie Heck, and they've got Elijah Klein. That is the area you want to go. The other side's a lot better. Ben Bredesen, Tristan Wirfs, who Wirfs is one of the best. If I'm the 49ers, I'm trying to get Bryce Huff on Charlie Heck. Now, the problem is, how do you get Bryce Huff on Charlie Heck without him getting chipped or double teamed, which most teams are sliding protection that way? We know the 49ers like to find different ways to kind of, overload a side. So they could put Bryce Huff, Mikael Williams, and whoever on that side, whether it's Jordan Elliott or Sam Okawanu, whoever it is on one side, and then get another pass rusher on the other. You've just got to make sure Fred comes up or D. Winters comes up and simulates pressure on the other side to engage that offensive line so they can't fully slide protect over. But they want to find matchups that they could generate some pressure off the edge. I do believe that they have an advantage when it comes to Bryce Huff versus Charlie Heck, and I think they have an advantage when it comes to Mikael Williams versus Elijah Klein. I think those are going to be good matchups for the 49ers trying to generate pass rush with just 4, but I still think in this game, Robert Saleh blitzes Upton Stout. I think he blitzes the safety, whether it's Malik Mustafa or Jason Pinnock or Marquis Siegel, and then I think sometimes you'll see D. Winters and Fred Warner come as well. They want to make Baker Mayfield make quick decisions and get rid of the football. He's done it pretty well, but if you can get him to turn the football over one time at least, you have a real shot to win this game. And the Buccaneers haven't been wonderful on third down this year. So if you could get third and longs, bring the pressure, make him get rid of the ball quickly, tackle before the sticks, you have some opportunities. You got to slow down the running game, with Rachaad White. Without Bucky Irving, this is a great opportunity for the 49ers to slow down that running game and make the Buccaneers one-dimensional. If they can make Baker Mayfield have to throw the ball 40-plus times, I think it's advantage 49ers. It'll give them more time to get after Baker Mayfield. It'll put them in some negative situations. Even though Baker's been really good this year, he's only completing 65% of his passes, which is down from last year over 5%. So you can get after him. They don't have all the weapons. If they had Mike Evans and they had Chris Godwin to go along with Emeka Egbuka and Sterling Shepard, and Tez Johnson, you might think that throwing that many times is a negative, that would kill you. But I think in this situation, you want to take away that running game and really make it a Buccaneers team that's one-dimensional. And dealing with Emeka Egbuka, I think got a lot easier with Chris Godwin being out. With Egbuka, he's going to be the number one target. That's who Baker Mayfield's going to be looking at. So you look at the starting wide receivers. You've got Emeka Egbuka, Sterling Shepard. You got Ryan Miller, Tez Johnson, and then Cameron Johnson. So it's definitely a weakened room. I think Sterling Shepard and Emeka Egbuka are very talented. Tez Johnson still got all the speed and ability, but I think they're going to have to lean on Egbuka a lot. And then I think they're going to have to lean on Cade Otton as well. Otton had a coming out party last week, his best game of the season, at least for this year. He's played really well over the last couple of years. One of my favorite players coming out of college, out of Washington. And he's proven that he can be a matchup issue. And I think he's going to get matched up against the 49ers safeties a lot. And they're going to have to make sure they shut him down, especially in third down situations when Robert Saleh decides to go man. Jason Pinnock is probably going to be the one that they put on him. They've been doing that with Siegel. Will they do that with Pinnock? Will they bring Siegel in those situations? I think it's going to be interesting, but I expect Cade Otton to be a bigger part of this game plan and a bigger focus with Chris Godwin out and with Mike Evans out. He just needs to help Egbuka. Emeka Egbuka, Cade Otton, and really Rachaad White are probably going to be the main targets for Baker Mayfield in this game. Maybe some Sterling Shepard. He finds a way to get open, but I think those are going to be some interesting matchups. Now let's talk about the keys to win. When you look at third down effectiveness, 49ers right now converting on third down at 46%. So staying above 45, if the 49ers could get it up to 50%, it would be great. If you watched last week, it wasn't great on third down all the time, but fourth down, they were perfect. So if you're not going to get it on third, as long as you're close enough to get it on fourth, it is effective. You look at the Bucs, they're at 41%. This is an area that I think the 49ers have an advantage at, is the 49ers defense is really good at getting off the field on third down. Just 33% they allow the opposing team to convert on third down. And the Buccaneers are down kind of in the average range at 41% as far as converting on third down. So the 49ers can get some third down stops and get some good field position, get some more opportunities for their offense. I believe that's when the time of possession and the opportunities for more points really go into the 49ers' favor, where they could take control of this game on the road. But if the Buccaneers are able to have third and shorts and convert, I think that Baker Mayfield and that offense is going to be really tough to stop. So third down is going to be a pivotal down. It always is every week. But you have an advantage here when you look at the 49ers defense versus the Bucs offense. And I think it goes the other way, or at least strength on strength with Bucs defense. They only give up third down conversions at 38%, 49ers at 46%. So you've got two teams in the really good category when it comes to converting and stopping teams from converting. So this is strength on strength, where the 49ers have the advantage when it comes to third down defense against the Buccaneers offense. I believe it's kind of a stalemate between the 49ers offense and the Buccaneers defense. That's going to be a fun one to watch. The team that converts more on third down is probably going to win this game. I mean, that's just usually how it goes. You look at the red zone, it's going to be another big area. 49ers offense has not been good in the red zone this year. 42% of the time they convert touchdowns. Last week it was 205. They need this to be over 50% in this game. And when you look at the Bucs defense, they allow touchdowns some of the highest rate in the NFL. 71% of the time they allow touchdowns. This is a weakness on weakness, right? 49ers are not great in the red zone. Buccaneers defense are not great in the red zone. If the 49ers can convert over 50%, they will probably win this game, right? Win on third down, win in the red zone, win the time of possession, win the turnover battle. These are the things that matter in a football game. And usually if you win those categories, or at least most of those categories, you win the game. So that's something to watch. And that Bucs defense is historically bad right now in the red zone. So 49ers got to be better at scoring touchdowns. The first two drives last week were phenomenal. They had another opportunity. They had a missed block by Juice. They had a little bit too much pressure on Mack where he couldn't find Demarcus Robinson. He didn't have time. That was Byron Young beating Colt McKivitz. So the opportunities were there. They squandered them. They had a chance to go 50%. They couldn't do it. That's going to be huge. Now, when you look at the Bucs, they've been better than the 49ers in the red zone, but not great either. You want to be 50% or better. 50% is average in the NFL. So they've been held to a lot of field goals this season. So the 49ers defense, though, has been one of the best when it comes to playing in the red zone. 49ers defense, 56% of the time give up touchdowns. That's number 8th best in the NFL. So top 10 in the red zone right now for the 49ers. So this is one of those, again, where you have weakness on weakness. 49ers weak in the red zone on offense versus the Buccaneers, who are weak in the red zone on defense. Something's got to give. And then you've got a pretty good Bucs offense in the red zone. I would say pretty good, not really that good. And then you got the 49ers defense that's really good in the red zone, top 10 in the NFL. 49ers need to keep the Buccaneers out of the red zone to have a chance to win. Now, turnovers is always a big one. 49ers have given the ball away 8 times. The good news is it was 8 last week. They didn't turn over the ball at all. So starting to get back, you want it under 1 turnover per game. Right now, it had been at 2. So it finally fell just below 2 turnovers per game for the 49ers. For the Bucs, they've been great taking care of the football. Just 2 turnovers all season. Baker Mayfield with just 1 interception. So they have been superb taking care of the ball. Takeaways, 49ers at 5. They got 2 last week. They needed both of those turnovers to help them be able to defeat the Los Angeles Rams. And they've got to get more again against Baker Mayfield and Tampa Bay, and that's not easy. They just don't turn over the football. The Bucs, though, they also don't create turnovers. They don't get takeaways. They only have 4 on the season. So 49ers with 5, Buccaneers with 4. These haven't been 2 of the better teams taking advantage of opportunities to get turnovers. That's something both teams wish to change, especially if they're going to consistently stay atop the NFC. Turnover differential, 49ers at -3. It's not good right now. It was -5 last week, though, so we're seeing improvement. They need to get into the positive category. Bucs at +2. The big reason why, they've taken care of the football so well this season. So you see turnovers are a factor, red zone offense, third down effectiveness and efficiency, time of possession. Those are key factors in winning the game every single week. And now we're going to get into the Wow That's Bold predictions brought to you by 49erscutbackshop.com, where you can get your 49ers Cutback Shop merch and other 49ers inspired merch, including mugs and everything else. Check it out. Link in the description section.
Wow, that's really bold. Whoa. Whoa. Whoa.
It's got to be really bold. It's got to be whoa. And I'm going bold in this one. You know, it went pretty well over the last couple weeks. We've had some good predictions. You know, if it wasn't for a pass interference on Upton Stout, we'd have got every single defensive one right a couple weeks ago against the Jaguars. So the Wild That's Bold predictions have been rolling pretty good. And I'm going with a couple of bold ones. Number one, I'm going 49ers over 50% in the red zone. I think that this is the week that they get over the hump. I think Tampa Bay's red zone defense hasn't been as effective as it could be. I look at some of the matchups the 49ers are going to have personnel-wise and how Kyle Shanahan's going to be able to manipulate some of those. And I think there's opportunities to score in the red zone. I think the 49ers go over 50% in the red zone and score more touchdowns with their opportunities than they have done all this season. I think it's going to be a good game for them in that category. And then the 49ers run offense is without a touchdown. They're the only NFL team without a rushing touchdown right now until this week. And it's going to happen against one of the best run-stopping defenses in the NFL. I think the 49ers are going to get a rushing touchdown this week. Last week, they should have had one. If Kyle Juszczyk would have blocked Omar Spates, Christian McCaffrey would have ran into the end zone for a touchdown. He slow played it. I think they find a way this week. They ran a nice toss play, got down there. They're going to get it done this week. They're going to score a touchdown inside the red zone on a run play. It's going to be the first one for the 49ers, and I think it's going to be pivotal in how I believe this red zone offense is going to be more effective. Now let's go to the defense. And I think the 49ers are going to hold the Bucs run game below 85 yards. Stopping the run has been a problem for the 49ers this season. They give up over 100 yards per game on the ground. You're not going to have Bucky Irving. I think that plays a big role in it. But I had to take into account Baker Mayfield's probably going to scramble and get some yards. Rashad White's probably going to have a couple successful carries. But I think they're going to hold this Buccaneers run game in check. I wouldn't even be shocked if it's even lower than this. But I put it at 85. I think that's a fair number. And I think the 49ers are going to make them more one-dimensional and make Baker Mayfield really focus on having to throw the football. And then the other one is Mikael Williams is going to have a sack. I think this is the week. Mikael Williams is going to get matched up in the right situation over the right guard, and I think he's going to get an opportunity to get in the backfield and make a play. So Mikael Williams gets a sack to complete my Wow That's Bold predictions. And now it's time for the score prediction brought to you by FanDuel. Now, if you were going to bet with FanDuel, right now the line moved a little bit. The 49ers, the spread is at 3.5. So the 49ers are the underdogs at 3.5, right? So plus 3.5 for the 49ers, minus 3.5 for the Bucs. The money line is plus 148 for the 49ers and minus 176 for the Bucs. The over-under is at 47.5. Now, I went through because there's all kinds of cool player props and things, alternate, spreads and things you can bet on. I went through and found some predictions that I like for this week, that I think are going to go a long way. And the first one is Christian McCaffrey in an alternate spread. Christian McCaffrey over 60 receiving yards at plus 118. I think that this one is one that's definitely a possibility for Christian McCaffrey, because they listed him as a over-under 53.5, and I think the extra 7 yards is there. But McCaffrey has been getting 80-plus yards per game through the air. He is a focal point of this 49ers offense. Nobody has been making impact like him, and I see the advantages again at Christian McCaffrey versus the linebackers of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think there's going to be opportunities for McCaffrey in the passing game. I got McCaffrey over 60 yards at plus 118. And then Mac Jones, I'm taking at over 250 yards. So I think this is an opportunity to bet, and just the way Mac's been playing, he's been throwing it for over 250 yards every week, and I think he does that in this game. I think that he has to be able to win, And so Mac Jones over 250, Christian McCaffrey over 60 receiving yards is how I'm betting with the player props. Now, when it comes to the score prediction, I do think the 49ers are going to cover. Now, it moved to 3.5, so it would be putting it on 3.5. I got the 49ers covering in this game. I got the 49ers winning in this game 24-20 over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Both of these teams have been playing one-score games all year. I think it becomes a one-score game again. I think that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense is going to be hurt by not having Mike Evans, by not having Chris Godwin, by not having Bucky Irving, not being able to run the ball effectively. They're going to focus on Emeka Egbuka and Cade Otton. I have so much respect for Baker Mayfield that I think they're still going to score points. But when it's all said and done, the 49ers defense is going to have enough in the tank to get the stops they need to get and get a big win on the road to 24-20. So, of course, I'm taking the under 47.5 points as well because I think there's going to be 44 points scored in this game. 49ers 24-20 in a really big game. 49ers improved to 5-1 and really take control of the NFC West, the NFC overall, as their bid for that number one seed continues. Yes, it's just 6 weeks in, but the fact the 49ers are in the conversation is definitely big. Now, let me know in the comment section what you think the score prediction is going to be, and if you have any keys that you think is going to happen or any bets that you think are good ones, let me know in the comment section. I'm always curious. I really appreciate you all coming through and checking out the episode. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you're listening on audio platform, 49ers Cutback on Believe Network, please give it a 5-star rating. This episode was brought to you by FanDuel. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Until then, stay safe. Remember, the right way is always the 49ers way.